What's up? So I'm going to talk to you about my second ceremony that I had when I was down in the Amazon, and talk a bit about what we did in preparation, seeing as nothing worked the first time for me with the ayahuasca medicine. We decided, well, the shamans decided that they would steam bath me in plant baths. So basically, we're in the middle of the jungle, it's 30 something degrees Celsius and the humidity is like insanely high, and they decided that it would be a good idea to get a big pot of boiling water, stuff plants in it, and then wrap me in a plastic sheet and allow the steam to like penetrate into like my skin and my body to try and cleanse out any energies or anything that were in my like soul or my psyche, to enable me to interact with ayahuasca better. So we did this a couple of times, and it was crazy because it would be so hot before I did it, and then afterwards I'd take the plastic sheet off and my temperature would have rocketed because 33 degrees and like 90% humidity felt cold to me. So it's definitely a crazy experience. We just watched a documentary on Netflix with Zac Efron, and he went to the Amazon and did the same thing where he got wrapped in the sheet and stuff, so I could really relate to seeing him do that and how crazy it feels afterwards. So that night we go into ceremony and it's the same principles as before, except from I know everyone a little bit better now, and I take my first dose of medicine. We hold it down for like the 45 minutes to an hour, and then about 2 hours later I drink the water to help me like vomit and try and get it kick-starting, and then a little bit after that I take another dose because nothing's happening again, and I hold this one down as long as I can, and then I start to feel really like weird inside on my own accord, and like I want to be sick, so again I vomit. As you're guessing by now, ayahuasca is very good at making you do that, and I started to have like auditory senses where I could hear the jungle sounds, so like the frogs and everything like that, super loud, and if I listened to a specific noise I could hone in on where it was and where it was coming from, which was really cool. As far as like the rest of the ceremony went, that was kind of as far into it as I got, but I did get quite sleepy. I was extremely exhausted that day, but the auditory senses that I had were pretty cool. And then after that we had a meeting, obviously, the next morning where everyone sits down and discusses what happened, etc, etc. And unfortunately everyone that was in my group was leaving that day because they had done their 3 ceremonies, except from one guy called James. And me and James then spent the weekend in the retreat center together, pretty much just me and him, and a whole bunch of new people came in on Monday, so me and James got to spend some really quality time, which was crazy because not only does he have the same name as me, he actually lives about 15 minutes from me in Australia, and he listens to the same music as me, so like it was crazy because he's like someone that was basically like my twin, and lived in the same vicinity as me. So I will make another video about like what happens when I get back to Australia, because me and James did do San Pedro because I managed to bring some back with me. So over the weekend I got to know the facilitators and the shamans a bit better, and they gave me a massage to try and like help out with like some blockages maybe, and they were using like boa constrictor oil. I think it was like super slippery. I've never experienced anything like that as a massage oil, which was crazy. And we kept doing the steam baths and trying, you know, to clear any energy blockages. But come Monday there was a whole bunch of new people that came in who also had a ceremony with us that night. So on my 3rd ceremony nothing happened. I put that down to having a bunch of new people in, different energies, and trying to figure out how to let go and surrender. I think one of my biggest things with ayahuasca was I am hyper observant of my surroundings and everything around me. So when there's a whole bunch of new energies and people doing ayahuasca for the first time, or like I don't know them in that environment, I become a lot more aware of what they're doing and how they're coping and making sure that they're okay, which is the opposite of what you're meant to do because you're there for you, but I don't know how to fully surrender and become quite selfish in that regard. So that's a tip of advice. If you are going to go by yourself, don't go with people that you know. I find that when I have new people around, my focus shifts onto them and making sure that they're okay. So personally, I think for me to do ayahuasca would be better in a one-on-one sort of situation, because then I can start to relax into myself a bit more. And I think that's one of my key factors as to why ayahuasca wasn't so potent and powerful for me. Whereas when I did San Pedro, which I'll make a video about soon, I was just with one friend and we did it together, and we were like completely on our own. So I was in a lot more of a relaxed state, which allowed it to fully take over me, and then it worked out a lot better for me in that aspect. So I think if you're going into doing ayahuasca and a ceremony and things, you need to learn how to like surrender and let go and allow the medicine to take over you, and also you need to be comfortable enough to know that you can work on yourself without the input of anybody else. Even by their movements and things, you need to be able to, you know, block it out and just focus on your own sort of channels and stuff like that. So I think that's really important. That being said, I still want to do ayahuasca again. So at the moment I'm living in Washington, and we found a ayahuasca center here where potentially in about a month's time I'm going to go and try it again, which will be interesting because it's a year on. I've had more experiences when it comes to psychedelics, and I should be able to let go a bit better than I did before. So potentially in a month's time I'm going to go and do it again, which will be super exciting, and I can share it with you guys and let you know how it goes. But as for that, my next video I'm going to make will be on San Pedro, because that's what happened next on my spiritual journey, I guess. And that one is a bit more crazy and a bit more interesting than my ayahuasca posts, just because of so much more crazy stuff happens. Ayahuasca for me was pretty chill. So yeah, if you've been to do ayahuasca and you have experiences and knowledge and things that I necessarily haven't had the experience of, please comment it down below, because I would love to hear about your experiences and your interactions or advice with how you managed to let go in doing ayahuasca. And yeah, maybe you can teach me a thing or two, so if I do it in a month or two's time, then I'll be able to take that advice on board and get to it and be able to experience it for what it's meant to do. But thanks for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you like it, and don't forget to check back and see the San Pedro video that I'll be making next.